Hello, everyone, and welcome to Small Talk with the Etsy Collective, an initiative to bring you closer to the change makers, industry veterans, and Etsy sellers, and give you an opportunity to listen to their thoughts, ideas, and find some inspiration that we all need. I'm really happy to share with all of you that Etsy Collective completed its 2-year anniversary milestone in August this year. And thanks to all of you for coming along with us in this journey. Your love, enthusiasm, and feedback is what keeps us going, and we look forward to many more such milestones with you. Here, we'd like to play a short celebratory video with you.
Hello everybody, we have completed 2 years of Etsy Collective. It has just been an incredible way for people to connect. Etsy's mission is keep commerce human, and I believe that Etsy Collective has been able to work towards that mission and serve that mission in a very effective manner. Here's to 2 years of Etsy Collective and many more to come. I believe that this is absolutely the best platform to keep commerce human in addition to being online on Etsy.com.
Congratulations, Etsy, on completing 2 years of the collective.
This is an amazing milestone. Kudos to you guys. Congratulations.
Has to be the first collective which we had in Bikaner House. I was invited to the event and I absolutely loved it.
I so vividly remember that when I walked into the room, there was so much energy, there was so much enthusiasm. That itself became such an amazing memory for me.
A DIY session at the end of the workshop, I think it's really a stress buster that you get involved, you learn, and you leave the session with a souvenir.
There's so much to learn from so many creative geniuses.
I'm sure it adds a lot of value and provides a lot of insight into the many facets of this industry.
Etsy India team really took on the challenge of making the lockdown successful and informative and educative for all their Etsy sellers.
The entire Etsy team, keep rocking, you guys are doing great.
And thank you for keeping commerce human.
Thanks, Radhika. And with that, I'd like to introduce our team. Mr. Nanda Krishna is the PR and marketing lead for Etsy in India. And the Etsy Collective has been her passion project for the last 2 years and something that she never tires speaking about. Radhika and Ria are part of the marketing team and the behind the scenes stars of this session, and they'll also be answering you in the chat box. Anushka is a member of the Seller Success team, and she will be answering all your questions related to setting up your Etsy shop. Her team has helped hundreds of sellers in India setting their Etsy business up for success. And finally, I'm Ishani Mukherjee, and I'm part of the community and marketing team, and I'll be moderating this session. I'd like to welcome our very special guest, Tanya from the Etsy shop, Mulberry Loom. A mom and an entrepreneur, Tanya's journey with Mulberry Loom is a wonderful one which results in some amazing sustainable living products. Thanks so much, Tanya, for being with us today.
Thanks, Ishani. Thanks for inviting me.
And with that, I'd just like to introduce the agenda of the session today. So I'll introduce what Etsy is doing in India and globally and talk a little bit about that, and then move on to the fireside chat with our seller. And then we'll open it up to questions from the audience, and I'll be taking that up with Tanya. So a little bit about Etsy. Etsy is a global marketplace for unique and handcrafted goods. We provide creative entrepreneurs with a platform to showcase their work to people from more than 80 countries in the world. We're the only marketplace which focuses on creative entrepreneurs, and we help our community of sellers turn their ideas into successful businesses. Our platform connects our sellers with millions of buyers looking for an alternative, something special with a human touch for those moments in life that deserve imagination. We connect millions of buyers and sellers from nearly every country in the world. Currently, we have 2.8 million active sellers all over the world, selling more than 66 million products to over 47 million active buyers. In a time when automation is increasing so much, it's our mission to keep the human connection at the heart of commerce And that is why we built a place where creativity lives and thrives because it's powered by people like you. In 2019, Etsy became the first e-commerce company to offset 100% of carbon emissions from shipping. And for every item shipped in our marketplace, Etsy automatically invests in environmental projects to offset the emissions. Since 2019, we have offset over 173,000 metric tons of CO2, the equivalent of 20,000 homes' energy use for a year, or charging 22 billion smartphones. And it's not just us as a company who feels responsible to account for our carbon footprint. 90% of our buyers say that environmental sustainability is really important to them. There are three major categories of goods that can be sold on Etsy. The first one is handmade, which is anything that you design or make will come under this category. This is also our biggest category of sales. Vintage items are ones which are at least 20 years old in product age, and craft supplies are anything which can be used to make something new. For instance, materials like fabric, gemstones, and this is the only category in which we allow bulk sales in. And lastly, I want to share some trivia that shows that Etsy is built to encourage entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurs pick Etsy for their journey. 95% of our sellers work out of their homes, and 53% of our total sellers sold their first good on Etsy. 83% of our sellers are also women, and 90% of our sellers are businesses of one. And there's a reason that entrepreneurs pick Etsy. It's because we believe entrepreneurship begins with you. That's why we think that all the decisions regarding your shop should be made by you, starting from the price that you want to charge to the shop policies about shipment, returns, and refunds. We also have a lot of seller services and tools which help you start, manage, and scale your business. The company was founded in 2005, and our headquarters is in Brooklyn, New York. And we started our corporate office in India in 2018 in New Delhi. Since then, we have tried to engage with the creative community in India, and the Etsy Collective as an event is the result of this objective. Our aim with the Etsy Collective is to build a community of artistic individuals who are curious about Etsy as a platform and want to explore it. We have done over 100 sessions with the Etsy Collective, and these are all the places where we have done this session offline. And I want to show you a small video of the Etsy Collective to give you a glimpse of the offline experience and a glimpse of what we have in store for you, hopefully not too far into the future.
I think Etsy was one of the first steps I took which brought my passion out of just being a passion and into something which could give me, actual money. The ease with which anybody today can take any skill they have and monetize that and turn it into a brand, which is amazing. It means that anybody who has a skill can make it more than just a hobby.
We're not just about selling. Etsy is really about building a community of creative people. And what we've done in India is since last year is that we try through the Etsy Collective to meet with different creative people in different parts of the country. So far we've done about 32 collectives. Almost all the bigger cities we've covered, and now we aim to go to the smaller cities and interact with creative people.
It was great, quite informative. It was worth it.
It's always good to be around Etsy people and the entire communities.
People are very welcoming, and this workshop, everything was good.
And with that, I'll just move on to the fireside chat with Tanya. So Tanya, the first question that I have is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and do you come from a background of design?
Not not technically, yes, but yes, I wasn't with, I didn't do designing. I don't have any work experience in designing. I worked with KPMG. I quit KPMG. I decided to pursue fashion design as a course to pursue my passion. And then I was pregnant then, so I couldn't complete my course. And so, yeah, in technical terms, I'm design student, but with practical, I don't have any experience as a design because I don't have any work experience in design. So, yeah, but this definitely helped me with my business because I got the sense of color, textile, what kind of material, what kind of fabric to choose. That definitely helped me.
That's great. So yeah, I think so. You've been through a few different career lines, but now you're doing what you're passionate about. So yeah, we'd love to talk more about that. So can you tell me more about how did you come up with the idea of Mulberry Loom and what inspired you?
Yeah, when my daughter was born, her name is Noah. So we wanted to, we got quilts for her and blankets. Many people gifted blankets for her. So, but yeah, those weren't so wash friendly. Means you just can't wash in machine. So that was very difficult because every time it was soiled, I had to get it dry, clean. So it was like for 9 months old kid, you just can't start. You can't imagine how many times you need to wash it. So that's how I started quilting for her initially and for 2 years I was making blankets for her as well as for my pregnant friends who were expecting child, so I used to give them. And then suddenly someone told me because there is a demand, why don't you just sell it? I wasn't very sure then because I had to take care of her, my daughter also, so I didn't know what to do. But yeah, I was like, if people are asking, maybe they need it. So then my friends started purchasing from me, and that's how this mulberry started. So
that's amazing. So your story is a great example of necessity as the mother of innovation. So what were the first few steps that you took while starting your journey?
Once I started making quilts, I researched what are the demand and needs, what do actually people need, what types of print they want, what do they need in fabric, and what type of quilts they actually want. So yeah, the important thing for every parent was it should be washable. You can just wash in machine because it's hand washing or getting it dry cleaned isn't very feasible option when you have a small baby. Like because quilts will get soiled every day in day out. So yeah, that was there. Then I started doing what fabric, what filling to be used so that it can be washed easily and it will not be like, it wouldn't lose the texture and it will still maintain the quality as well as the beauty of the quilt. So that's I started reading I started checking Pinterest, what are the trends, how what kind of quilts people like, then Google article. Reddit and Instagram definitely gave me good insight about the customer's need. And that's how my first step was to understand the market and the demand and the need. And then, yeah.
Yeah, makes so much sense. I think because the concept came up because of your need, understanding the customer's point of view would have been really important. So that actually takes me to my next question, is that once you understood that, why did you choose to sell online and on Etsy out of all the other options that you had? And how has your experience been on Etsy?
See, my husband travels a lot, so it wasn't feasible for me to start a brick and mortar kind of shop then, and along with toddler, because Noah was 1.5 or 2 years then when I just started Mulberry Loom. So to manage an offline shop was totally no, out of question. And Etsy, I wasn't aware, but one of my friend Amisha, she suggested, Tanya, since you can't do offline, why don't you try Etsy? Etsy. So I decided I'll just give it a look, and I thought it will take time, means like other marketplace, so I might not do it. But yeah, I registered myself within a day and put my listings and everything, and within 10-15 minutes my shop was up. So I thought, yeah, it's easy. And then selling with Etsy the experience has been actually wonderful and learning, because I get to know a lot of things, what's happening, what our customers need, because people come with custom requests. Then you realize, oh, this is the thing that you can sell. And it was Etsy was simple, user friendly, and I didn't need a knowledge of marketplace to start selling on Etsy. So that was one thing that actually helped me to start with my Etsy store, and then rest is history, because yeah, the orders started falling in, and it was Christmas time, and so it started just like I didn't realize I was running a store, and then there was store order was falling in, and that's how it started.
I think the best is like when you start with no expectation and then you realize that it's so well received.
Yeah.
And clearly your shop has been doing so well. Everyone in the audience, I think we've shared the link to Tanya's shop. You must check it out. The pictures, photography is also beautiful.
Yeah, and obviously it gave me freedom to work from home as well as being creative. It was not about just I can do whatever I want to do. I can create something beautiful, and people started loving it. So that is the best thing that I can think. Getting appreciation for your work, which I didn't realize. Yes, but I started getting feedback. Oh, your quilt is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Can you do this in this size? Can you do this in this size? So yeah, I have all the freedom that I can do with it.
That's great. That's great to hear, Tanya. So being mom and an entrepreneur must be so empowering, but I'm sure that also comes with some challenges. So do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. Initial, I had difficult managing. It's the term is work-life balance. I didn't know when to stop. I was just I used to work, and means I used to just quilt, take pictures, and I was at everywhere, but I was nowhere, because I wasn't getting what I was unable to spend time with Noah, and I was all the time quilting, taking pictures, writing description, and it was very exhausted. Then I started realizing I started batching the task. Like I'll take pictures in a week. I still do that. I started scheduling my week. If I need to take picture, I'll do that for in 10 days. I'll take picture for 5 quilts. I will not do with that one day. I made blanket one day and then take picture another day and then post it. No, I'll just wait and take 4 or 5 pictures together. So that was one thing which was difficult uh, during my initial few months. I struggled, and then there was always the guilt. Uh, I always felt that I need to spend more time with my daughter because I'm working from I'm working on my passion and working from home just for the reason that I need to spend more time with her. But in technical terms, I wasn't spending any time with her because my attention was somewhere else, and I was just trying to pretend that I'm playing with you or I'm spending time with you, but I was physically present with her and emotionally unavailable. So I I understood, no, if I have to work, I have to work. If I need to take a break for something, that's some unexpected thing, I'll just take a break and then maybe play with her without thinking about work. And that is how I started managing things. And yeah, another thing was uh, uh, initial months, I was like, if I will say no to something, if some customer has asked me something that can you do this, I was instantly like, yes, I can. But after taking pros and cons, I used to think, no, this is taking much time. It's taking much longer than what I expected. And so I still do. I answer them politely, yes, please give me time and let me check with whether I have fabric, whether I have required raw materials. So that was all like initial. I used to struggle with how can I say no because it's a customer. Then slowly I started taking my own time. I asked them if you need to wait. So yeah, uh, if you can wait for 20 more days, then I can start working on your quilt or maybe something like that. So then I got the time extra, and that is how I started managing my time with my daughter as well as my work.
Those are some actually great learnings in general for everyone in terms of how to maintain work-life balance. And I'm so happy that like with your business on Etsy, you're able to get that balance.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Can you tell me a little bit more about your products? Like what all do you make? What are the fabrics that you use? Key ingredients in your colors. If you can walk us through that.
Yes. So my I most my main focus is baby blankets and quilts. Though there are few times when customer request to make either king size quilt or queen size quilt, that's different. Otherwise, mostly what I cater, 90% my product consists baby blankets and quilts, in which there are divided into swaddle blankets, natural dye baby quilts, nursery print quilts, and muslin baby quilts. So swaddle blankets are usually those uh, good for summer, light weather, and fabrics that I use are 100% cotton. There are 25% of my products consist hand woven cotton, which are sourced from different places, from Kolkata and from Gujarat. And then there is natural dye quilts. Those are vegetable dye, which in solid prints. Those are indigo, rustic, coral, or pink. I since I cater to uh, mm, uh, uh, new mom who are more concerned about their kids and chemical what what about chemical environment or anything that then I try I limit and I try to use vegetable dye so that those chemicals or harmful chemicals are not are not what you call not part of your daily living, and kids it's kids friendly, and even can be used for sensitive skin without being uh, without being harmful. So, and the third one is nursery prince quilts, which are I source fabric from Chennai. Those are digitally dyed prints, and I stitch baby quilts in as per the size requirement. And the uh, muslin is there are two kinds. One is solid and one is printed one. And so yeah, it's mostly baby quilts.
Yeah, I think
And
I can see the pictures. Yeah, sorry, go on.
there are some custom quilts that I have done. There are a few times on Etsy, customer requested me to make quilts with silk thread. There are sometimes when they request to write me name for their infant child. So that is all what I happily agree, and then these quilts, and I get ravishing feedback for these quilts that yeah, these were this someone whom I gifted, they were so happy with her quilts. It was a beautiful, thoughtful gift. So yes.
That's great. I think I'm really enjoying the pictures in the presentation as well. So
Thanks,
thanks so much.
Ishani.
Thanks so much for the presentation. So, Tanya, Mulberry Loom is, like you said, is your journey towards environmental sustainability and slow living. You've talked about that before.
Yes.
What does it exactly mean for you to make these ethical choices, and why do you think it's important?
Uh, it's like buying quality products over quantity. I ch- uh, I n- I don't compromise on fabric and threads, though those are costlier than what get or what I source in the local market. But I do make sure that the quilts that the fabrics that I use are of higher quality and can at least last for 2 to 3 years of washing. So, and threads, I use 100% cotton threads, which doesn't contain any synthetic material in it, and it's durable and biodegradable. So that is how I'm trying to achieve sustainable environment sustainability in my products.
Tanya, finally, what is your personal advice to artists in the quilting space, someone who's starting out on Etsy and the moms out there? What should they take note of as they start their business?
For quilting, I would suggest uh, uh, you have to be, you need to first uh, pre-wash the fabric. The first and foremost thing is pre-wash fabric, because I have made this mistake in initial days. What happens after making quilts, when you wash those quilts, the size, being a cotton fabric, it shrinks to 2 to 3 inches, and that will change the whole size and the whole aspect, width as well as length. So the first and foremost thing before starting anything, just wash your fabrics. And you have to have very firm hand. Uh, Quilting requires a lot of patience, and so it's like uh, you need to have very soft hand. It's just let your hand flow with thread in a rhythm. Don't push uh, don't push or don't pull your thread too much, because it will, the cotton batting that's filled between two layers of fabric, it will, it will become, it will get harder once you pull it very hard. So, and while cutting your fabric for quilting, you have to always keep the extra uh, batting width, because while you are quilting, the batting that is called cotton batting, the filling inside the fabric, those get squeezed. So it always have to be wider than the fabric, the top fabric of the quilt. And lastly, do it when you are in calmer zone. So so that you do, and completely present at the moment, because you, what happens, even a bit of distraction and you will just hurt yourself with needle. So that is one thing that I think is the most important thing for quilting. You need to be more focused and aware about your surroundings.
Thanks so much, Tanya, for those tips. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Otherwise, I could move to the audience questions.
I think so. Yeah, I can have few advice for people starting on Etsy. Once you start your journey with Etsy, the first thing that you have to trust me, no one can teach you the first order, the first experience of your first order. You will never realize how to cherish that. So how you can be prepared for first order, but trust me, when you get your first order, you don't know how the joy will overtake you, and you will not realize what to do. I have this thing, what happened with my first order. It was gift order, and gift note was mentioned in the note while checking out. I did, first thing, I didn't know, is there anything else I need to do for gift order? I wasn't sure. And so I was like reading. Then I realized, no, it needs to be gift wrapped and then put in a gift note. So I gift wrapped and put a note, and then I realized there can't be an invoice because it's a gift order. I went to DTDC for dispatch, and they said, have you brought any packaging material? I was like, is there any packaging material? So they said, yeah, it needs to be dispatched, so it needs to be packed and then shipped. Then I said, I have this address and this is gift order. So they gave me one shoebox, and they said, you need to pack it in this and wrap it and put your address here. I was like, a gift order arriving in a shoebox, and that to be the blanket. I wasn't sure. I thought I'll just check. So then I went back. I took my parcel. I came back home, and then I thought, is this the way I want my parcel to be dispatched? I thought, no. Let me think it. And then I got the packaging material. So yeah, you need to be prepared for your first order, and always pack your parcel very nicely, because this is the one thing that customer will receive, and they can only understand that you are serious or any your brand values or anything. Your packaging will tell a lot about you as a person, as a brand. So always keep packaging material, and the joy of first order, just cherish it for longer, because you will remember it forever. And another thing about a description, your people don't. I did the same mistake, so I'm telling you from my experience. Uh, don't write very longer description, but yes, keep it sweet, simple, and informative. You know your product best. If you can't tell me what makes my product different from yours, then the customer will not understand the difference. So your description has to tell them everything that they need to know. So description and photography, you need to make that connection with the customer, that once they see that your product and read your description, they need to know, yes, this is the product that I wanted. So you need to work on description. I didn't. I used to write 3-4 liners. This is baby blanket. I made it. This is this thing, and this is how you need to wash it. Then I realized, no, this is not what my story has to. It needs to have your voice, your story, your uniqueness. So description, you need to work hard. And
sorry, yeah, please go on.
Yeah, no, and the last thing, you need to always understand your customer needs. It's always best and advisable to engage with your, if you have your social media presence, try to engage with your audience, because then only you can realize what are the requirements, what are the needs, what your customer wants. So that all will help you as a brand to grow, evolve, learn, and make mistake, and then grow with your take success, take failure. Just learn from your mistake, and then try to improve it, and always read what they do need, because that will create the market need that you want to sell.
Great, thanks so much. I think those are all extremely valuable tips, especially for people who are just starting out. I think description point especially, I think it's so nuanced. People don't know how short or how long it needs to be, but I think your principle of like it should just be your story and your voice, both in the like about a section and the product description. That's great advice for sure. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
We have a few questions. We collect our questions during our sign up process itself, and we have a few in the chat box. So I'll just start with those. So most of the questions, are around boosting sales. So they'll be kind of talking about the same theme that you were just speaking about. So Sneha Ibrahim is asking, I frame embroidery and a bottle art as a hobby. How do I convert it into an Etsy sale, and how do I manage orders as I will be doing everything myself?
See, I still do 90% of my work. I still manage my own self. I don't have another people to help me. You can definitely Etsy has been very it's very user friendly. So when you need to work on your SEO, that is search engine optimization. You need to know your keywords right. What are the keywords that customers are searching? You can't use very technical terms, because customer will not understand the technical terms of because I do just for an example, it's baby quilt. If I start writing, it's 200 GSM cotton batting filled baby blanket. They'll not understand this. So you need to search those terms that customer is searching, and then write those. And once you are there, take great pictures. And since I think so, your needles, your framework and bottle work goes with decor, home decor. So mostly, what are the usage? Who will be use? Who is the ultimate person who would be using it? Can it be gifted? Those terms you can use it, and this is the great time to products for home decor, because people are about to start their holiday shopping, and so definitely it will help you a lot when you showcase your products in front of those buyers. It will boost your sale during Christmas, because people will be searching a lot of things to gift. So, and any handmade, any unique things, it's always preferred. So I think so you should start working on keyword, and then start with your Etsy shop and selling it. Don't think, because once you start overthinking, the first step is to do, because thinking will not help.
Yeah.
So you should just implement it.
Yeah, I love that advice. You should just go for it for sure. Start. And also the SEO advice, I think very, very applicable. I'll just give you a few minutes break because I have a few questions for Anushka. So Anushka, the first question that we have is from Nikki, who is asking, how many items do you recommend starting out with when you start your Etsy shop first?
Okay, so Etsy, there's no such like compulsion that you have to list particular items on Etsy. It's just that it is recommended to at least have 10 to 15 products on your shop, because you are targeting the world audience. Everybody has different choices. So if we list few products, maybe it will not cater the need of most of the buyers. So try to list at least 10 to 15 products, so that you can give choices and maximum buyer can reach your shop.
Great, thanks, Anushka. Another question is from Mrinmoy Rajput, which is that if I'm good at making garments, especially Indo-Western, is Etsy a good option for me?
Yes, of course. Because it is Indo-Western, it is clearly related to Indian products. And so, first of all, as we have only manufacturers and designers and makers, and you are the one who is selling something which is related to a particular country or location, so you'll be more, there are more chances of getting a sale, because there are people who are staying outside India, there are NRIs, there are even the foreigners also like Indian clothing. So you can list them, and obviously as you are from India, so we have limited sellers from India. You have more buyers, and obviously they cannot find the same product outside India, the person who is selling outside India. So if they'll first consider the Indian shop only, because it's a clearly India based product. So yes, of course you can try.
Definitely, yeah, I agree, Mrinmoy. I think Indo-Western products are quite popular on Etsy's platform, so definitely.
Yes.
Another option is, the most common question we always get: how can I start selling on Etsy? From Harshita Singhal. So Anushka, if you can guide them through the step-by-step process.
Sure. So setting up a shop on Etsy is very easy and user friendly. And it's very simple process. So as Tanya already explained, that it's a simple 1 day process, not even 1 day. It will take a minute's time to even set up your shop. So I'll just go through the steps, that what are the steps you need to follow to open your shop on Etsy. So first of all, you need to go to any browser and type etsy.com over there. Once you type etsy.com, our website will be there in front of you. You need to click on sign in and do the registration with your email address, set up your password. After registration, you will find the first step, which is shop preferences, in which you need to choose your preferred language, country, and currency. After that, the second step will be name your shop, in which you need to mention the name of your shop which you want to like put, because this is the name by which your buyers will know you in future on Etsy. And the third step is stock your shop. So for opening up a shop on Etsy, you need to list at least one product. So you need to just upload a picture and few details about that product, which is editable, so you can change it later. And after that, the fourth step is how you will get paid. So on Etsy, you need to have a business PayPal account to receive the money from the buyers. So you need to enter your email address of your business PayPal in this section. And then the last step is set up billing. So you need to have an international debit or credit card to open your shop on Etsy, because the bill which you get in future, whenever you generate a sale or whenever you do a listing, you need to pay some amount for that, and you'll get a bill for that, and that bill you need to pay through that card. So in last step, you need to mention your details which you are going to use to pay Etsy in future. When all these 5 steps are completed, the open your shop icon will get highlighted. You need to click on that, and you'll come on your, and you'll be live on Etsy. It is very simple. Still, we have if somebody need a proper assistance, we have a team who are opening the shop on a regular basis. They are trained agents. So there is already a chat link in the chat box. You can do the sign up, and the concerned team will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Anushka, last question from Aparna Garg is, how do you price for international, for the international audience, and what is the shipping process?
Okay, so how to price the process? So there are obviously there are 2 things which we need to keep in mind while we decide the price of the product, because most of our sellers are new. They are trying first, like they have opened the shop for the very first time in the international platform. So we usually suggest them to first of all bifurcate their cost between direct and indirect costs. Like direct costs are the ones which is of raw materials, or which is directly linked to the product, raw materials or something which you need to make a product. And indirect cost includes, obviously, if you are working online, you need to include some indirect costs also, which is not directly linked to your product, but which is kind of indirect, which you need for making the product. So you need to combine your direct and indirect cost. That will be your total cost which you need to receive for covering up your cost for making the product. After that, obviously, you need to add some profit. So you need to add your profit margin over there. After that, it is totally optional for the seller to give free shipping or paid shipping. So if you want to give free shipping, you can add your shipping charges in the price itself. There are some charges of Etsy which you can include in the price, so that there is no need to pay anything from your pocket. So you can add some percentage of Etsy, which is 5% that you need to pay after sale. So you can add that percentage also in your the pricing thing. And after that, you need to just convert it into a dollar, like to convert into dollar to put your price. So this is the pricing process. And what about the shipping? I'll just tell you, on Etsy, there is no such compulsion for the seller to opt for any shipping company. We're not restricting the seller. It's their shop. We are just providing a platform. So Etsy is very simple in shipping as well. You can decide your own shipping company, but still to make it more convenient for some sellers, because some sellers are not so much experience with the shipping things. We have recently tied up with one company, which is Yakit. And that is an international, like they'll do the international shipping. So if you want information regarding Yakit, and if you want to do the sign up for Yakit, you can fill a form in the chat box, as I've already mentioned, and you will get in touch, like the concerned person will get in touch with you for the same. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much, Anushka. Thanks for answering all the questions. A few more questions for you, Tanya. Two more questions actually, and two great questions. I think one more question is from again Rimoya Rajput, who is asking how you spoke about the first step that you took in starting up your Etsy shop was understanding the buyer's demand. So can you talk a little bit about how, like, what are the ways that you understood what your buyers are looking for, and what were the channels that you used to get this information?
I interacted a lot on Instagram. I suggested as well. Even I do. I take out 15 to 20 minutes of my schedule to interact with my audience. What are their pain area? what do they need, because the social media channel can be a good place to market your product and to understand the need. So the first and foremost, every time I used to get, is it washable? Can I wash it? For how longer will it last? So you can use Facebook if you are not on Instagram. If you have any page or Instagram handle where for your brand, you can connect with your audience and try to understand what do they need, what are their painful areas where you can work. And Reddit is one website where you can get lot of information on custom as a customer point of view. You can read, you can search about your product and read what are the things that customer need in this product that you create. So you can make it more better by implementing those pain areas and making it a better product overall, and what you call, and create your unique piece that is different from what other people are already selling in the market.
Great. Yeah, I think those are listening to your audience from social media.
Ishani, 1 minute. Sorry, I forgot to mention Pinterest. Pinterest is also very impactful thing, because in those you understand what people are actually searching, what is the trend right now. So you can learn about trend, about customers' needs on those platforms as well. And if you want, you can search on Google, what is the best example. If I will search, I'll search what are the best quality that you are looking in baby blankets. By searching as those terms, you will understand what you need to work so that you can improve those products. That's all.
Thanks for sharing that, Tanya. And our final question is from Sunanda, who is one saying, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your insights from your journey. And
thank you, Sunanda.
She's very curious to know where your first buyer was from, and where are most of your buyers from? So like, what are some of your favorite countries that you sold to?
80% of my buyers are from US, 18% from Europe, and 2% are from Japan and Australia. Canada, I'll include with US because it's they are almost the order are mostly interchangeable, like 80% and 30 to 35% is from Canada and 40% US. So yeah, and my first customer, though she was Indian, but yeah, she was in California, and we are good friends now because I told her what happened with her first order, why there was delay. So she was from California, and her name is Kavita. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Etsy is also a great place to build relationships with other sellers, but also with your customers.
And I'll tell you, Sunanda, she has been my repeat customer. She has almost placed order at least 5 times in 2 years, and I still make exception for her. And I never take king size quilts, but I always make exception for her and do, especially because she has been my first customer. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's so special to have that great working relationship.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's all the time that we have. We've able to, I think, go through most of the questions that we got in the chat box and our form. So thanks so much, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Ishani.
Thank you. I thank each and every one of you for being part of this small talk session with the Etsy Collective. Do check out our social media handles for updates on upcoming sessions. And again, thank you so much, Tanya, for spending your Saturday evening with us and sharing your journey on being a mompreneur and with everyone.
It was a pleasure, Ishani. I'm honored to be part of this great small talk, and thank you so much for considering me to be a part of this.
No, the honor is completely ours. Thanks so much, Tanya, for being part of it. And thank you, Anushka. Thank you, the entire team. And thank you for your time again, and have a great weekend. Do let us know how you like the event in the feedback form that you will receive via email. And bye. Have a great weekend.